Alright, I've tried to tough it out, but I think I've finally reached a point where I can no longer ignore the elephant in the room. Hunt Showdown is no longer the game I fell in love with, and the direction Crytek is taking the game, as well as their interaction, or rather their lack of interaction with the community, is simply so baffling that I just had to rant a bit. I know it's been a long time coming, but I've tried to keep all of my complaints to myself. Just for starters, before we get to the meat and potatoes, the new engine, I love it. CryEngine is an amazing tool, and Hunt has never looked as beautiful as it does right now. I'm also a huge fan of Bounty Clash. I think it's a great addition to the game. It's a lot of fun. The Hellborn rocks, not just in terms of fitting the mood, but also the lore of the game itself. I also don't have an issue with Post Malone being part of the universe, as I see how much attention a person like that could draw to the game. I'd say it's a win-win for everyone. However, with that said, there are several issues that over the last couple of months have simply kept piling up, and I just can't keep it to myself anymore. For starters, the UI. Now, this is a dead horse, and a million other people have already ranted about this, so if you've heard it all before, go ahead and skip this segment. Now let me just say off the bat, as a person who has an education within UI UX design, the old UI of Hunt Showdown sucked balls too. That's right, I said it. The old UI was absolutely terrible. However, with that said, the new UI is an amazing downgrade from something that was already terrible to begin with. This is probably, and I'm not understating this, one of the worst UIs I've ever seen within a game. And I'm not just talking in terms of functionality, I'm also talking in terms of the game's theme. Hunt Showdown is a gothic horror first-person shooter. Gothic horror. Gothic horror entails themes like decay, monsters, darkness, tragedy, the duality concepts of life and death. How the fuck is any of that reflected in this UI? Where does anything in this UI reflect what Hunt Showdown is about? This just looks like any other modern day shooter, but just way more difficult to navigate. And I think that's the main problem for Crytek in terms of this UI. For one of the core principles in UX design is that the fewer steps a user have to take to complete a goal, the better. Yet somehow, they've managed to go backwards on almost every single aspect of user goal completion. It just makes zero sense, which is also where a lot of my frustrations come from, because this issue could have been avoided completely. There are so many people on Reddit alone that has offered to help with this UI again and again and again and again. Of all the things you could have landed on in terms of UI design, how it became this one is completely beyond me. I don't get it. Then there's the performance. I recently upgraded my PC and the game runs fine now, but before that I would typically get below 50 FPS within most compounds. But it all seems to be a bit of a roll of the dice, because people with much more powerful rigs than me, such as my friends Hyde or Rain, often both have terrible performances within the game and I don't, so I don't know what's going on there. Then there are the servers. Personally, I had never experienced many server issues before, yet after I took about a month break from the game and then came back, I had server issues constantly. I have been dropped from I don't know how many games during this last week and experienced massive lags again and again and again. It's literally been so bad that we on 2 occasions decided to just call it quits because the game didn't run because of server issues.
What just happened? Did the server just crash?
Yeah. The moment we tried to play this game again, the server fucking crashed.
And then there's the trading. I think that covers it. Then there's the lore. Pardon my French here, but what the fuck, Crytek? What the fuck is going on? First of all, we got this massive dilution and horrendous downgrade in writing quality over the last couple of years. That's one thing. But then there's your failure to implement and or expand on brilliant stories and characters that already exist within the written lore, with you instead going your own way with these silly event that doesn't capture the theme of Hunt, leads nowhere, and ties into nothing. on top of them basically happening at the same time, it's all just incomprehensibly bad decision making. And then on top of all of that, you decide to remove the lore completely. Why? I know there's a huge part of the community that doesn't care about the lore of the game, but I do, and so does a big part of the dedicated players as well. It was what made me fall in love with Hunt to begin with, and it was literally what kept me immersed within the universe and the gameplay as a whole. I literally loved the lore so much that I dedicated a large part of my YouTube channel to it. I think that of all the terrible decisions ever made within the history of Hunt Showdown's existence, removing the lore was for me the worst one. What I'm not happy about either is how Hunt and its dedicated community is being treated. We're not treated as players anymore, we are rather simply consumers. The game has become one big monetization scheme where DLC after DLC and event pass after event pass is jammed down our throats, which in itself is not a problem. By all means, get that back, Crytek, more power to you. However, all that I ask for is that you don't implement things that break the lore or the theme or the setting of the game's universe. I don't mind Crazy Guy with a Mask number 900, but implementing things like Ghostface from Scream simply for the mass appeal to audiences is such a slippery slope. I'm literally just waiting for us to dive into Haunted Nicki Minaj, Ghost Kevin Hart, or some retarded Jack Black Hunt iteration. I can already see it. In all seriousness, I don't think any of this with the DLC or the event passes would bother me that much if I could at least see that the money that Hunt earned was made with the intention of benefiting Hunt itself. But that just doesn't seem like it. I think that Hunt Showdown currently exists for the sole or major purpose of funneling money into other Crytek projects. And the reason I say that is because community feedback has again and again revealed critical issues, game-breaking bugs, and massive problems that remain unsolved for eternity. This is despite overwhelming complaints and frustration from the player base on social media platforms across the board. The development cycle of Hunt Showdown has turned into this negative feedback loop where new implementations aren't tested properly before they're rolled out. This results in further issues within the game and larger frustration among the player base, which then leads to panic hotfixes and server shutdowns, which then creates more issues and even greater frustration among the players. This cycle continues again and again and again, barely held together by a dev team who are clearly out of bounds in terms of their workload or are actively choosing to prioritize resources somewhere else. It literally took a massive review bomb from the player base before Crytek understood the issue of the UI and decided to jump on the issue. Not that I condone the review bombing in any way, because I think that hurts the game both in short term and long term, and that's not what I'm after. But you can't ignore the opinions and the feedback of your player base and expect your game to thrive. That's simply not how it works. And for me, that is really the core issue at hand. For one of my biggest gripes with Hunt is actually not the game itself, but rather Crytek as a company. In general, there are of course always bad apples in the bunch, you can avoid that, but in general, I would say that the player base of Hunt are a very dedicated and understanding bunch. We love this game. It's an amazing, one-of-a-kind gem. I myself have almost 2,000 hours in it. It's literally one of my all-time favorite games. But what I can't accept is the way Crytek handles the communication with the community. The lack of clear and concise messages, the days, weeks, and even months of radio silence, the dancing around or completely ignoring critical community feedback is simply infuriating. And if there was just one piece of advice I would give to Crytek, it would be just be honest. If there's an issue, accept it and address it. No one in the community wants to be talked to or treated like an idiot, and you insisting on undermining or downplaying critical in-game issues with corporate downtalk doesn't decrease anyone's frustration. It does the complete opposite. It is literally how you alienate yourself from the community. If the game has an issue, tell us. We will listen and we will understand. There's a game-breaking bug and the service needs to be taken down? Fine, no problem. The new engine isn't ready. Okay, no issue, we understand. but don't ignore critical issues reported by the community and then postpone addressing them until it's too late. See, the issue doesn't lie within the community. The issue begins when you don't address it, or rather choose to address it in a manner that doesn't express the same urgency as the community feels. For after all, if you don't care about your game, then why should we as a community? I think you, and by you I mean Crytek, criminally underestimates just how far honesty would get you within the community. And that's a shame, because it would benefit both the community and the game in both the short and the long run, which I thought was why we were all here in the first place. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I'm sad about the current state of Hunt. I hope it's gonna return to its prime at some point, but yeah, let me know what you think. See ya.